And we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome into this SBA EIDL Loan Increase Update, PPP, Employee Retention Tax Credit, how to get a business loan with and without collateral. And above all of that, I'm going to be going into some of the latest problems that I've been seeing right now, the shifts in the market today, what I've been getting back from my lenders, the underwriters, from going to these events, being through these meetings, and so much more, so you can be more prepared today and moving into the future. But before I get started, if you're here on this live, please give me a hashtag live in the comments or a hashtag replay if you're watching during that time interval. Welcome in. Hi, Keyshawn. How are you doing? Yes, I will help you out in a moment, but you can give me more specific information on what exactly you need help with. And like always, I'm always here to service each and every one of you to help you out in the best way, in the best form possible. I come out with content just about on a daily basis. If you guys have been tuning into the channel, you might have seen me somewhere on like TikTok, perhaps Instagram, blog posts, etc. But above all, I'm here to personally and business-wise help you be stress-free, hassle-free, going through the process of applying to getting funded, to understanding, having more knowledge, so you're not getting duped. You're not being held back by these other brokers / agents, people releasing information to you on the web, giving you a call, email, direct messenger chat, text message, and they're not leading you in the right direction. I'm going to be getting into some of those things happening this week. More particular, I know it's happened a lot in the past and will continue to in the future. So let me know where you guys are tuning in from. How is your day going? Where are you watching from right now? Are you driving back home? Are you in your place? You just happen to see a pop-up notification. You saw my alerted email that I'd be going live. But this is going to be a great video for you. I'm going to be giving you some on share screen stuff. So you can't see right now, but I flipped over to a tab where I have my notes together, and I also wrote them down right here in this notepad, like always. So I'm always prepared for you guys. I don't always just go at this blindly. Sometimes it'll be more spontaneous, and I will. So let me start off by saying that my vacation in California was great. It was more of a family / pleasure, less of business. I went there for a wedding, and that was taking place Saturday. And that was the whole reception, church and the reception. And then on Sunday was what we call el encalentado. That means where we get together and we all have food. And it was nice and sunny out in Riverside. So we were in Riverside Saturday, and that was for the wedding. And then in the afternoon of about 3 o'clock or so, we were at the venue where we're doing all, dancing and all that. And that was in San Bernardino. And then on Sunday, we came back to Riverside, and then thereafter. But we've been everywhere. We've been in Anaheim. I've been in Garden Grove. Went to go visit back my hometown, especially Fallon Valley. And it was great. Hi, George. How are you doing? So overall, the experience was amazing. I'll try to release some videos or some pictures to you guys in a combination of the both here soon, if I can, if possible, to show you guys. But if I were to flip through my phone as well as other people's, you can see all the pictures and video taken. I even showed you guys where I was in my hotel room, just down the strip from Disneyland in Harbor Boulevard on the Sheraton. That's where we stayed. Now, I can't give you guys exact numbers and all that. Nice. Minnesota. And so that's what I did. I went to California for that reason. I had a lot of great food. The last day, which was on Thursday, that's when I dropped by Tommy's Burgers, and then thereafter we went to In-N-Out just to have a quick burger here and there before we get on our plane. We leave to go to LAX to get on our plane. And then we came back Thursday night. Yes, it was. Yeah. And so that was a great time, and I was pretty happy about it. Oh, excuse me, Tuesday, because Thursday was yesterday. So we've been here since Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. And then I've been here since Wednesday, Thursday, and then now today. Well, today's not Friday. Yeah, today's Thursday. Excuse me. I'm getting my days mixed up. You can see, you probably know this as a business owner / entrepreneur. Sometimes you get your days foggy. And that's what's happening to me this week. It's not happened so much, But when I'm working and I'm being very productive, you can sometimes miss a day here and then trying to look back on it. But overall, great time in California. We got there, we brought the weather here from Vancouver, Washington. That's what our family told us. They're like, you guys brought Washington. So when we got there, it was darker. It started raining, not as heavily as it does here. And then the next day, the same thing. So we had to shift around our schedule when we would go visit the beach. And even on the day we went to go visit the beach, which is what, on Monday, we thought it was supposed to be sunny. Again, it was an overcast, a little bit dark. So we should have taken advantage of that on Sunday when we went out and did, I think we did Fashion Island on Sunday. That's in the Newport Beach area. So it's an open like mall. I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's pretty cool. I like it. A lot of stores maybe I wouldn't purchase from myself, personally speaking, even if I had the money to do it. But the whole thing was pretty cool to go out there and be around family and then individually do my own things as well. But again, I'll try to put out some videos out there and some content for you guys, but a lot of memorable experiences. It was more of a family / pleasure trip. So if I were to do it on my own, it would be different. You guys can only think about how much it would be when you have your parents with you, your younger brother and so forth. How, not distracting, but you know how parents can be. But let me go right into this. Starting with the SBA EIDL, and I have my notes here. I know this is what you guys are in here for, not to listen to me talk about what I did in California. But you care. Okay, so I publicly released this not too long ago. I think it was the day after I got in from California. And I spoke about what is happening with the EIDL loans. If you were to happen to watch that video, I spoke about the disapproval amount of people and then those that are still getting approved. Over 50 to about 90% or so of individuals still getting approved for those increases, reconsiderations, loan modifications, going through the appeal, and then going through the increase reconsideration process, and how there was 9,000 that were denied, and the other percentage of those that are in the queue are still being considered for an approval. And that's not to say you will fully get approved. It's just to say, okay, you are already increasing and you're already in the process. Some people are waiting longer than others. Some of you have been waiting for 18 months, more or less. Some of you have just about a month in and you're wondering, when will they get back to me? And the way I answer that question and what I get feedback from the loan officers and everybody is it's an order of relevance, order in the position of when they were received. So it's not like they can just scatter and find yours that was just submitted a month ago, but they had another one that was submitted 3 months ago. So the one that was submitted 3 months ago is more likely to be looked at right now. And before May 6th is when you wanted to get that increased reconsideration or whatever part of that process you were in submitted. Now that the portal has been closed as of May 16th, perhaps there's going to be an extension moving forward so they can allow you to download some documentation, because those of you right now who are speaking to me, I see you guys in my emails. I see you guys in my direct messengers. It doesn't always mean I can get to you guys right this second. So for those of you who are patiently waiting, I do gratefully appreciate you. Honestly, I do, because I am a very busy person nowadays. In the beginning, when I was getting started with all this, you could find me on TikTok Messenger, those direct messages, and I would be commenting and messaging and spending every single waking second on it. But now that so much is growing and expanding for my own business, as well as I have other ones where I will wear multiple hats in them, then it creates, what am I going to give up? What is my opportunity cost? So I will get back to you. For those of you who have emailed me, Fridays and Saturdays are usually my catch-up days. I responded to some of you guys about that today, and I will try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. And even if I didn't respond back, Fridays and Saturdays are usually when I spend a lot of time going through questionnaires. And if I can't get to them, hey, give it a little bit of time and stick with it. The problem that I'm seeing a little bit aside from the EIDL, and this will kind of relate to it, and I'll jump on this a little bit later, people are going through a lot of problems. I get COVID has put a strain on your business, and it has been this way for a long time. Some of you guys take funding, and it's putting more even of a strain on your business, cash flow wise. You don't have enough of it. You're not getting the right terms. You're finding out that you have more business expenses. You have to pay per project. You have to pay a broker. You don't have enough funding, when you're putting your money into the fundings that you get with this business loan advance, you're putting it into these business expenses, but then you don't have enough to pay off for this certain project. But I'm going to get into that in a moment. Just let you guys know that it is a bit difficult right now to get EIDL funds unless you are in the queue. So a lot of people will email me saying, hey, can I be a new applicant? Can I start a new application? I submitted a EIDL reconsideration about 6, 7 to 18 months or so ago. And everybody's in a different situation. So I'll hear it all the time. Like they didn't have the right 4506T form, or they never got it. They never received it. I never sent that to them correctly. They didn't go through this with the IRS. They didn't check this out with this portion of it. There's so much. And at this moment, again, if you don't have that increase button, or of course you can't get through the portal, one thing, but then two, if you weren't given an email and instructions on what to do if you were declined, then it's in a lot of cases it was not going to be processed, no matter how much funds are still remaining in the EIDL for those that are in the queue, but it's being depleted very quickly on a daily basis. So let me move this over here. Sorry, I have a few lighting things on my screen. You guys can't see it. Oh, and this I can't see as well. Got you, George. So let me read this out loud for everybody to hear. And I have again I have an HP computer that I got recently. The old one, let's just say I didn't need it anymore. This one, I put a new lighting on it, gave me an option. So I'm in the HP enhanced lighting. I have it open and it has this like circular white thing around it. So I can't really move it to see all the letters, but I'm going to try to do my best to read this. So I'm still trying to figure out some things with this new HP laptop. I was part of those group SBA, and I think there's maybe nothing after that. Disappointed. EIDL shut down. Didn't get funded. Therefore, we're looking forward to get educated with the new available SBA 7A and microloan. Understood, George. And this goes for everybody that's here now and will be watching this later. I have content already out on the SBA 7A, George, as well as everybody, as well as the microloan. So it might not be directly underneath this in the description. It may be there. I may update it. I think it is. But what you can do is go to my videos, go to my actual channel, go underneath the videos, and it should be one of the most recent ones. It should say, or you can type in SBA Microloan or SBA 7A. If you typed in one of those two or both, it will then bring you up those search results of the recent videos that I did on it. So I did SBA EIDL Loan Alternative to the microloan, and then I did an alternative to the SBA 7A/504. Those are very in-depth videos. So I kind of want to segment into that section. But before I do, more on the EIDL loan. So just understand that if you weren't able to download any of the documentation you had in your back portal, it may be too late. They may say, hey, we can open up the portal for this extended amount of time, and it might not be for each and every individual. It might be on an individual basis, not collectively. So you can get those, but at the time, it isn't something that is going to be happening. Here, let me move this lighting thing so I can read it. It's going to get a little bit dark here, so bear with me. Or at least on my end is what I see. We don't know where and who to trust along with all those companies that Yes, George. I'm going to segment into that. This is the main purpose of this video, everybody. You came here for the EIDL loan. It's like you came here for the Taco Tuesday, but you're leaving with you're staying for the dessert. Okay, you're staying here you're coming for the Taco Tuesday, but you're staying for the flan. You're staying for that dessert. Maybe you're not into sweets. Then you're staying here for the Taco Tuesday, and that's what it is, perhaps a drink. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit, and I'm going to go into the problems that I'm seeing. And I spoke to an individual today. You might be watching, but I do this just about on a daily basis. If it's not a phone call, it's email and so forth. They don't know who to trust. They took a loan, an advance from somebody, a broker/agent. I'm not comparing myself to them. And they didn't know what they were communicating to their client. So the client ended up getting in a situation where they took an advance that is then going to hurt them going into bankruptcy. Why is that the case? There are multiple things to talk about that. But before I do, just anything further on the EIDL, let me flip over here to my notes. So that's what the EIDL loan, that's what's happening right now, currently, the state of it. Things happening with the other COVID relief bill, with the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, the allocation of funds into that, as well as you have the grants. And then the hard economically hit areas, we're going to also get funding. Sorry, I got a text message from a client who, by the way, if you're watching in here right now, he was declined in March. I want to say he submitted an application, I think. So he had low January deposits, low January revenue. So he may be ready to come back today and get funding. So that's what it's looking like, because we're now in May, moving into June. So he will get help on that side. But what happens is, I almost lost my train of thought there. 1 second, let me regather that. Sorry, I'm getting all these. Let me put this up. He wants to send me his statements. But I put it on silent. And if what I was going on about was it the EIDL, yeah, that was it. I went away from the problems people were having, the EIDL, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and then the hard economically hit areas. Excuse me, I never lose my train of thought. I'm really good at like juggling things, so I'll like remember it, because I'm a very cognitive person. I'm very cerebral. And so what would happen is that the Senate was not passing it. It went through the House. So now we have all of this Democratic, Republican side, everything clashing head to head, basically, when they came to meeting, and how it adjourned and everything that happened and took place in that, and it was not passed. Not to say it wouldn't be something that can be in the future, but as of right now, that is not the case. And then they were trying to move numbers around that would be more according to the Restaurant Revitalization Fund that was either dropped a little bit and then it was increased. But there was a lot of stuff happening on the back end that I was keeping up to date with, and all the stuff that you can't really see on the front end. Some of the other things you have, the employee retention credit, you can still file for it. Not to say that the funds will be given and dispersed to you as soon as it was like in the first, second, to third quarter of last year. Even in the fourth quarter really wasn't in hot at that time. And there was a reduction in how much you would get approved for. But there's an employee retention credit out there. It's not a loan, refundable tax credit, and so forth. And I may jump into the share screen, but if I don't, I'll try to leave more information of that down below. I know I also made a separate video on it that I'll try to link to you so you can understand it better, but how much you can get paid for that on per employee. But I won't get into the specific details about it. Now, PPP loans. Let me move this and let me bring up the lighting on this because I see it being kind of dark. There it is. PPP, all this stuff is not being processed. Forgivenesses, still being looked at, yet it's not like you can get additional PPP funding at this moment. So don't rest your shoulders on that. Do not count on getting PPP funding. If you missed it, you missed part of their employee retention credit. You've missed out on some of these grant opportunities, which I'll try to link you guys to down below in the description. I know there's a 10K skip grant. There's a Verizon grant, women entrepreneurial grants. There's some new ones that I'll be trying to add on before the end of this week is over, because I know I have to keep up to date with some of that I already know about. But those are the things that are evolving in time. Now, what's happening today in the marketplace? This is what you guys are probably wondering, like recession, inflation, stock market. There's so much piling. And I keep up to date with all the financials and everything happening in the industry, but outside of that as well, and how it's severely impacting it. So right now, what is happening is there is a lot of concern for people who are trying to get equipment financing. Why is that the case? Traditional, I mean, equipment financing as in leasing/leasing to own, lease sales backs and so forth. And that pertains to the down payment of about 20 to 30, if not 20 to 50% is what you're starting to see on an average right now, because there's more of a demand for that specific equipment than there is a supply. So as demand goes up, supply goes down. You can see that the pricing that you would have to pay to get that piece of equipment is going to go up. It's just basic microeconomics, not macro in a sense. And I took those classes, by the way, so I know my stuff very well. And that's why I love helping you guys in this industry, because academically as well as I'm always staying up to date on what's happening in the industry. So now let me flip over here to collect some of those other notes that I have. So in terms of interest rates, prime rates, bank rates, 4% and above is what's more expected, and 4% plus 0.5%, depending on what you're trying to get, a line of credit. And most of their lines of credits work through the SBA, so it's coming in the form of a capped line. So if it's not always 4%, it can be somewhere between 5 to 9%, which is most common. But it also depends on what kind of collateral do you have. And usually what they're forming in their evaluation on is, do you have high value commercial property? Do you have enough equity in that property? Any kind of rental investments? Do you have sufficient equipment that perhaps we can add on top of that? And is it appreciating? Is it depreciating? If it's got a market where it's going up, then they're going to give you a better evaluation, appraisals for the property. And it's all very common. You have inventory. There's also accounts receivables and so much more. Now, let me flip back over here to get a few more details on these specific details that I have, again, in a little bit of a document here that I've put together so I can make sure that I'm not missing a beat of any of this. All right. So interest rates, you're looking at about prime rates of about 4% now to anywhere between, if this is collateral based, for 4% to 2 to about, I don't want to say, yeah, I'll say 2 to 10, but more so 2 to 8%. It can evolve in time from 2 to 8 to 2 to 10%, as we're seeing this happening with inflation, recession. So what I would suggest is, if you can get into getting funding right now, it's the time to do it, because the lenders are going to be more picky about how they give their money and how long it takes for somebody to accept their offer. Because if you're leaving an offer on the table, I want to tell you this right now. If it takes you even a couple of days to accept that, go speak with your accountant, your CPA, figure that out. I've even been on phone calls with people who have their accountant on the line because they want to listen and make sure that I'm legitimate. I know a lot of people tell me they want to hear it, but they also want to hear that I'm legitimate, which I am. And you can speak to those individuals. Maybe I'll bring them up at some point. But what you have to be well aware of is that lenders, they need to move their money. So they're going to be more constrained to giving funds for an extended amount of time. And so it could cause a more of a reduction. If you're not getting the offer presented to you, they can readjust that and give you less. Same is the case if you have already borrowed a certain amount and you're moving forward, however much you've paid off, they may not give you as much the next time around. They may give you a little bit less. And that's just to curb off everything, interest rates, everything happening right now in the market. So there's going to be a shift in terms of that with offer reductions. We spoke about the down payments. You're seeing what's happening with the interest rates. But above all, what I want you guys to really understand, get out of this video, is it's not all about interest rates. Well, somebody's telling me it's going from 4% and then 4.25%. I need to get in now. Sure, that is helpful. But instead of looking at interest, you have to look at your repayment. Your repayment being, hey, if I'm getting 20% interest, that's not bad if I think about what am I getting in terms of my repayment. If I'm asked to be paying $2,300 per week and then I'm paying about $8,000 a month, is that doable for you? Would you right now be able to say, yes, I can take on about $8,000 a month for, let's say, 8 months? Okay, how much am I paying back? You could do the math there. I'm not going to get into all of that. But what you have to think about, and not a lot of people do, and this is why they declare bankruptcy. And I've had people dropping it in my email after I said, milk. And then I had water later. So they'd say, oh, this is what causes people to declare bankruptcy. And I specifically responded to an individual saying, hey, that may be, I'm not saying that's not true. What I'm saying is it's all based on perspective and understanding your financial structure of your business, which for me, it doesn't sound like they get a lot of. Even if they're doing really good in revenue, they may not understand how they're allocating their funds existingly right now in their business to produce to them that ROI, that return on their investment. And they maybe have not been in that business long enough to understand that season for season, quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four, what are they producing? So they may not have needed the funds right now because of that reason. And they don't truly understand that. So what if you're paying $8,000 a month, but you're doing $300,000 per month, you get $150,000, or you're paying like $10,000 a month in 12 months, in 18 months? instead of being in debt for much longer. Sure, that monthly payment looks higher, but what you're not understanding is, would this produce to me an ROI? And if so, how much? In the short term or in the long term or both? And those are questions I ask you, and you have to have that. If you can't answer me that question, if you can't at least say to me, in about 2 months, I'm going to double, triple, quadruple my profits, you don't have to come to me and tell me that I'm doing 20,000 a month in about 2 weeks, in about 3 months or so, however much it takes, I'm going to be producing about 50,000 consistently over the next 4 to 5 months, or for the duration now. And then when I come back, I can inject another amount. Maybe it'll keep it back afloat at 50,000, or perhaps from 50,000, now you're realizing that these funds that I took, that I threw into a marketing campaign, threw into inventory, threw into a piece of equipment, is now gaining me an extra 20,000. Now I'm at 70,000 a month, and I'm doing that more consistently. That's how you build getting private funding, not the other way around. If you need it for COVID relief, to pay off debt, expenses, payroll, you name it, it can help. But is your business cash flow positive, or is it negative? And a lot of the times, even if you're cash flow positive, it still may be that in about 3 months from now, you may have something that comes up. You don't have enough funds from that advance to pay it off towards that. So you've used enough, you've expired enough, but you're not making your payments on time, and now you're struggling. And who is responsible? Partially me, because I'm explaining to you how this works, and I'll never push you to do something you don't want. And so also a line of credit would be helpful if you're dealing with cash flow problems. But even at that point, credit is highly utilized and emphasized. So when we look at your FICO consumer reports done in Bradstreet, Experian, etc., and we see if you have any business credit, what's the credit worthiness? It doesn't have to be a whole lot. But on top of that, how much debt are you taking on? That's what gets a lot of people. Debt to income ratio. What's your credit utilization rate? How many inquiries do you have in the last 7 to 12 months, if not more? I have 7. People applying for personal loans. Don't even apply for one if you don't have at least a 680 FICO. I see your guys' submissions every single day. If you guys watch the content, if you guys read through the material, you'd be saving yourself a lot of energy and time. And I don't know about you, but I'm very punctual in how I go about using my energy and my time. So take the time to go through the content before you apply to anything. If you have any questions, please feel free to voice them to me. Reach out to me. But don't be that individual. Like I had a call with somebody the other day. They got busy. The phone just hung up. I don't know if they did it literally. To me, that's not a punctual person. If I have to say it and I have to put it out there, that's how it is. A lot of us, we're business owners, but you have to put also an entrepreneurial hat. So I, as an entrepreneur, have to approach this like, hey, you weren't there. This is how you gave me feedback. You didn't give me any at all. It was rude to end the call the way you did. And I tried calling back about 10 or 15 minutes later. I thought maybe you were just busy. You accidentally hung up. You had to get on the phone with someone else. But you didn't even take time to reach back out to me about something very short that would have taken less than 5 minutes to talk about without me pressuring you. And so when people do that, it's like, I don't give you my time. Sometimes people will call me and I'll see the phone, but that's an unannounced phone call a lot of the time. So I can't always get to it. And I'm always going through like personal with family things. I have things going on. Maybe I'm working on the business, but I have a few projects going on. So I can't always get to the phone. So let me read some of these comments. Let me move. Again, this circular ring thing is in the way here. Yeah, you have to be careful, and I'll go into that a little bit more, the problems about, and some examples that I've been hearing about lately. Also, what credit score are these new loans? Like as in private loans? Alternatively? Hold on, let me see. Yeah, see, this ring is getting in my way. If you guys have an HP laptop and know how to get this HP lighting thing out of the way with this, kind of annoying. Let me move that. Also, what credit score are these new SBA loans? So you're referring to the 7A and the possibly microloans, SBA 504 loans. Well, it just got dark in here. Let me bring up the lighting again. I'll figure this out. I just haven't had time to go through it. That's all. Like, oh, that's an easy thing to do. Yeah, but been on vacation. I've had to get up early. I've had to do a lot of things. You are very welcome. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure you guys stay educated, and no matter what, at the end of the day, you're still inspired to work on and in your business. And so if there's anything that I can leave you with, it would be, a few things that I've been through myself. I've been in the position of getting funding. I know how difficult it is, starting from the very bottom, starting to build your business, not getting any revenue generated. And I'm talking about when I was actually in the online industry, trying to build it for over 6 months. I didn't earn I earned 18, I think it was 18 cents. I didn't take a picture of it. I took a picture of the second one. No, it was 8 cents. And it was off of pain relief cream. So I also have a business in the health space, helping people with back pain. And that one also runs very well-oiled. And so my first product that I sold was a pain relief cream called Penetrix. And I have it. I actually have the product. I have to go find it somewhere in the house. But I demonstrated the use of it, how it worked for me, how to help relieve my own back pains, acute, lower, chronic, etc., sciatic. But what I did was I started to develop, and it didn't come to me in the first 3 to 6 months. For those of you who are like, well, for me, I started earning money in the first month. Good. A lot of traditional brick and mortar businesses can do that, especially if you're buying one. But I had to work sweat day in and day out. Like I know many of you guys have. I'm not discounting that. But I know how hard it freaking is to make your first 8 cents, let alone that being online. And how great that feels. How amazing. Whether it's just 8 cents or $100, those 8 cents just opened up everything. And since then, I haven't stopped building businesses. So let's see here. For those loans, you want to have at least a 650. It depends on what amount you're getting. This SBA 7A Express loans, the faster loans, sometimes you need between, you can get between 30,000 or 20,000, in some cases up to about 350,000 or 300,000. Just depends on qualifications and where you're turning to. So 650 can be allowed, 660, but now we're getting into the 680 range, depending on what SBA 7A backed loan that is. So what I say as a rule of thumb, 700 and above, like 720. Now it's become more of a scrutinized process where just enough of a 650, 660 is not what will get you in. And that's what's happening in today's market. So they want to see something with like 720, 725, like the more with private lending options, realistically at a 625 FICO credit score is what gets you in a lot through more terms and better rates. Anything underneath that can work well, but 625 and above, and it's going to be shifting even more and depends on every single case. So 680, if not 700 and above, but I won't get into the specifics of what the SBA 7A loan is and how it all works, who's eligible, why you're not eligible, but primarily what you need to focus on. And there's a few formulas that we look at, and I wrote it down here. I want to make sure that I cover it the right way, but here it is. So 2 things before I share with you the formula is of how much you could possibly get approved for an SBA 7A loan. You have to have strong credit. And what I mean by that is it's not just the credit score, your consumer credit. We're going to look at business liquid credit, depending on how much you're asking for. If it's over 350,000, perhaps liquid credit doesn't take into account as efficiently it is. Instead, we just look at your credit and see how hard it is and how good it is, your consumer credit reports on those 3 credit bureaus. And we say, hey, they have minimal debt. Or no, you have too much debt we can't. That right alone will hurt you. Too many inquiries. Credit utilization. How fast are you paying your bills on time? And that's what helps a lot. You make a lot of us, we take on a lot of payments. We maybe take on one huge payment and we don't pay it off in time. So that is what will hurt you. Why should we give you money when it shows that you cannot even pay your bills on time? Also, one thing too, I want to hear from you guys. What is the number one thing you are struggling with most? Let me know in the comment section, and I will try to help you as I'm going along here and answering those, because each and every one of us has a different there are major other ones and minor problems that we all face. And it doesn't have to be specific to business funding. Perhaps there's an accounting side of your equation. budgeting. I used to do this for businesses. I used to work for different businesses when I got to that level, and I used to handle the budgets for logistic companies. For HP, I used to do things for them. For other contracting companies, I used to handle the budgeting. I used to understand inventory. I used to understand how, and I still do when I found I just have to get back into all of it. But how do we allocate the costs to make these types of purchases, and a lot more. I don't want to get too extensive on that. But your other part of aside from credit is the profits. Are you doing at least 10% in profits? When we look at those tax returns, does it demonstrate enough? And if not, we want to see at least 15, if not to 20% plus in profits. So those two things, and those are the two alone that disqualify people. You can tell me all day long that your revenue is 250,000, you're doing $1 million plus per year in annual gross sales. How's your profit? How's your credit? If it isn't where it needs to, you don't have business credit, at least enough, a little bit, something established, well, that won't work. And so when people come to me and they go, well, I wanted an SBA, no, it doesn't work. I just had to shut down a lady the other day, purchased an existing business. She was likely to go through a personal loan. Even with the merchant cash advance wouldn't work because the way that she's depositing into her account, her bank statements wouldn't reflect appropriately. And so all that into account, what we can look at is say, hey, can you offer up collateral? What kind of collateral? Preferably accounts receivables, unpaid invoices. Do you have that to give up? How much? That's my next question. And how much are you willing to let go? And so I've already come out with a few videos on accounts receivables. I'm going to touch upon it a little bit in this video, but check out the recent content on, I just released one today on how to get a business loan with collateral, specifically with accounts receivables. I spoke in the beginning about assets, and then I got into the account receivables and I focused on that. So make sure you guys watch it. I know a lot of people have questions about it. And then I have people who, I get it. At the end of the day, a lot of you guys just want information. You want to be well educated. But don't be that person who then says, yes, I'll email you back. Yes, I want to get funding. And then doesn't turn up for about another month, 2 weeks. Like, we're clear about when you would need your funding, but you just disappeared. You became Casper the Friendly Ghost, or like Homer. I've said this before. You become Homer and just do this. And you go into your bushes. So it's hard for me to understand what you truly are doing and what you need. Like, I had an individual the other day, or just recently. I've been trying to help this individual for, since February? Inconsistently responding back. And that could be because the emails at the time, they were landing in his spam box. However, before you guys nod your head and go, yeah, that has happened to me and I get why, and that is not an excuse. You're a business owner. You're an entrepreneur. What do? They cross their T's, they dot their I's. So when I'm in my Gmail or any other email inbox, every single day, I have about 4 to 5 of those that I look through. And guess what I do? If you said I go through my spam box, I do. I go through every little piece. Everything. Everything. And the reason that is because sometimes that's what you have is most importantly, it's sitting in your spam box, but you did not take the time because you were lazy, or 2, you just never built that habit of looking at it, or you just never had to because nothing ever important goes in there. But when you're speaking to myself, if something lands in your email inbox and it's in your spam, it's best to look for it. I've had individuals, a lot of them, just recently send me an email. Hey, they contacted me after about 2 months and they say, hey, here's my number. Can you call me? I called them and I let it out. I gave it to them. Not like in an aggressive tonality or raising my voice, but I said, hey, I tried contacting you about a month ago. Did you happen to see the latest email that I sent you? You wouldn't have been put in the situation where you took out $40,000. A broker lied to you. They kept telling you something and it didn't work. Whose fault is it now? Partially mine, yes, because it lands in the spam box, but I don't have control over that all the time. But you do. You have control. You're the one that can look in their folders. You're the one that can go out of your way and take some time to look at that. You take time to take care of your business. Take time to look for an email. It only takes about a minute, if anything, less than 5 seconds if it's at the top. And I do that every day because I care about each and every one of you. I don't want to miss a file that comes through. I don't want to see Sally here who sent something to me, but it landed in the spam box and I never looked at it until 3 months later when Sally finally landed in my primary inbox and then sends me something. No. Why? Because I'm an entrepreneur. I put my hat on and I problem solve. And I'm there every day. I'm punctual. People who have spoken to me, I say that. And I'll say it. Sometimes in the beginning of a conversation, I'll say, what is your outcome out of this phone call? And before they say something, sometimes I'll even say, what's your outcome from this phone call? Would it be that you'd move forward with this? If so, in how much time? So I don't always ask that question, but the reason I would want to ask that is because too many people, they dibble dabble. They dip their feet in the water, but they never get in waist deep. They never go into the deep end. They just sit on the kiddie pool that's only 1 foot where they have the rail. They're just actually not even sitting. They're just standing, looking. And those people who are in the deep pool, in the 12 feet full of water, swimming, diving, jumping from that end in, are the ones who are succeeding. But they don't jump and dive just to do it. Beforehand, they have an instructor. They have a consultant, a broker, an agent. This is how I want you to jump in. Once you're in the water, I want you to take 3 big strokes and then push yourself into the other end. And then stand on your own 2 feet. But when you go to somebody who doesn't properly educate you, you've missed out on my email, but you went to go get funding over there. Why? Because you didn't happen to find something that was there. And that was the case with a lot of people recently. And they came back to me. Just over 50% of them weren't happy. The payment. And I told an individual here, this is what I would have done. And it would have saved them a lot. Perhaps not gone into bankruptcy. But because you chose to go in your direction, that's your own situation. You could tell me you have other business loans, and if you want me to understand how they work, I'm not going to try to bait and switch you. If that one makes more sense, then it does. But a lot of the times they don't. And so be careful about what you're doing. Now, is EIDL loan... Hi, George. If you're still here, I'll post it right now in the comments. And then I'm going to put my email here for everybody else here. Should appear in the comment section. But like I tell everybody, I'm going to post this also in the comments for you guys if you guys haven't done this. And I'll tell you what this is in a second. So what I just linked you guys to in the comments, if you guys can see it, and it'll also be in the description down below. If you have not yet submitted a questionnaire for business funding, perhaps you have and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to get back to you. Fridays and Saturdays are my catch-up days. I usually do a lot. If I haven't, I'll try to do my best. Okay, please stick with me. And I try to do some of them in between the week. It's just so busy, a lot of projects. And so, and a lot of things with underwriters and lenders and so forth. But when you fill out that questionnaire that I just linked you to, it should take you less than 30 seconds if you have everything in there. I'm not a creditor. Please put your FICO. It's not going to hurt you. It's confidential between you and I. What I then do is with all the information that's filled out appropriately in its right spot, I wouldn't be able to tell you how many times people gave me just a number. I'm not sure if it's 7 months, 7 years. I can't even go find their business. Even though I asked for their business name, I can't even know. By that time, it's a headache. And so please be specific with the information. So once it lands into my email, I will then be able to give you a personalized and customized email response on your best funding option and options. Very thoroughly broken down from the top to bottom, that being an introduction. Then the services, I'm going to go into sharing with you what those are, the qualifications, how it works, the numbers, if necessarily, broken down bit for bit, bonus tips and bonus material, and then a conclusion as in like what I recommend you do, what I would do in your situation. So when you finally get to that point, you're like, I know what to do. All you do is click a button or a link in that email, and it takes you over to the process to get started. And then I follow up with you. I get to see all this stuff. Sometimes I don't need to ask for statements, bank statements, if it's year-to-date financials, tax returns, etc. Sometimes you could just upload that digitally and I can see it on my back end. So it's not always the case where I have to ask for it. There will be times where I do, as I act as the broker/agent. So just keep that in mind, and it's a very safe and secure process. EIDL Loan increase still available. Faith, no, not at the moment. Only for those that are in the queue are going to be getting processed. Hopefully that helps. Now let me come back over here to my document. I appreciate you guys for being here. I'm very grateful of you. And if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. And I say that wholeheartedly from the bottom of my heart, that I care about each and every one of you. I truly want to get to know who you are as a human. And then if that evolves into business, that comes second. See, that's how much I care. Like I say, if you were just sitting right next to me, I'd say, hey, how are you doing? Oh, you have that going on the weekend? You be hanging out with family? So it's very like a loose thing for me. It's not like I'm not a salesperson. I don't consider myself that at all. I don't like the whole notion of sales. Information is what I give you guys. Informational value. And if that information helps you enough to where you want to take the next step, now that's where you can take action on that. So how to get up to 5 million with the lowest interest rates. And let me see this word again. Best terms on the market today outside the SBA EIDL loans, and how this is an amazing thing. So I'm going to try to burn through these really quickly so we can get going. I know in time, I think, what is it? 46 minutes? I can't even see the other part because of this thing's in the way. Let me move this over. See how I'm doing on time. 46 minutes. There we are. Good. So the 5 million that I'm talking about is accounts receivable financing. And what that basically is you have these unpaid invoices that you can give to a factoring company in exchange for cash that you can use to bridge cash flow gaps. Let's say a customer doesn't pay you, or you are in the trucking business and you pay the broker instead of going through a factoring company, and then they're going to pay you back in about 30 to 60 to 90 days. That's too much time in between that. It's going to be hurting your bottom line. You may be having a lesser of a month next month, or there are some things you need to start using that cash for. That's not just cash flow gaps for growth and expansion, but you don't have plentiful enough of it. So what you then do is you can get a quick turnaround in 24 to 48, sometimes 48 to 72 hours plus, and they give you funding in return. They're getting, the factoring company is getting your unpaid invoices, and it depends on if they're aging receivables, accounts receivables. If they're non-aging, we look at it as different assessment on those, but the more aging they are, the better. So we think about how much you have coming in on a month-to-month basis, yearly, if there's any fluctuation, how much you can get approved for. But a lot of the times up to 95, if not up to 95.7% of those unpaid invoices. So I don't want to go into the examples right now, but if you're in the trucking business as well, look for a video that'll be coming out, I think tomorrow, possibly, maybe Monday, sometime then, about how to get a trucking business loan with the collateral of unpaid invoices more specifically. And I have other content on trucking. But this goes for anybody, not just in the trucking industry. If you're looking for giving up unpaid invoices and you're doing about $1 million in annual gross sales revenue, and you have enough sufficient and you want to have more control, this is better than giving up other piece of collateral. We're talking about real estate equity. We're talking equipment, inventory, and anything else, but those are the primary ones. And if you want to give up these unpaid invoices to collect funding, that's my number one recommended route. It gives you full control over how much you decide to give up. It's not the actual factoring company saying, hey, you have this much in unpaid invoices. How about you give us 75% of what you have in total, not just what you have coming in per month. You may have over 800,000, but some months you have 200,000. No, they're not going to say, hey, the appraisal is 800,000. Let's take 750,000 of that, and then we can get you funding. You get to decide if I want to give up 600,000 so I can get about 550,000 or so after a cut. And then you say, hey, 550,000. Well, guess what? I don't have to go buy out a new property. I don't have to wait for the appraisal on this. I don't have to wait to see what would happen in the market 5 years from now with this real estate property. Well, what's happening is I'm getting invoices on a month-to-month basis or however much it's working. It's coming in much faster, which means you'll get cash flow much faster. And so you can use it for anything, growth and expansion and a lot. So I have a lot of people right now who have gotten financing through accounts receivables and people who will end up getting that here eventually. And even if you don't want that option, we can explore other ones. You don't want to give up collateral? Well, maybe a term loan, secure term loan, maybe an unsecured term loan with a line of credit on top of it. Or what if you wanted accounts receivables, but you didn't want traditional equipment financing because a down payment is too much? Perhaps you have accounts receivables, but you're trying to get a construction loan and you're being told to put down $60,000. Maybe a merchant cash advance, a cash advance or an unsecured term loan would work best. But who's ever going to explain this to you? Well, some adequate average broker will. Not unless I'm training them and they come to me. And that's how they're getting their information. But be very careful about who you turn to. Now, let me come back to my doc here. I spoke about how to get funded through the SBA loan in between the EIDL. I have a bit more and then we'll get done here hopefully before the hour. So why you're not getting funded and the two primary reasons and what you can do to go about fixing it. So I spoke about this in the past, so I'll just briefly touch upon it. Two reasons. Number one being that your banking activity is leading you down the wrong path. And what I mean by that is you are transferring deposits from multiple accounts and they are not being counted as true revenue. They're not organic deposits going directly straight into your business account. Once you receive that, it's going directly into your business account. You're not doing that. You're transferring it from multiple accounts, however you're collecting payments. And what that does is it looks like you're manipulating your bank statements to a lender, whether you are or not. So I think this is the number one thing, aside from the second part, which will really open your eyes. So banking activity, making sure that once you have what you're getting paid for, it's going directly deposited into that business checking account you are primarily using. You may have multiple ones. Inject that into your primary account that you will be using when you go and apply for funding. I hope that makes sense. Again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to voice them to me. I don't judge anybody. This is a judge-free zone. So feel free. Another part, there's more extensive information on that. I'll try to link to you guys down below. I've just made a video recently on that. But the second reason being is your deposits on a month-to-month basis. It's fluctuating. It's not enough. You may just deposited one for $50,000, and then the next month you deposited three for $15,000 each. Less revenue this time around by about $5,000. So there's a little bit of a fluctuation already with deposits. Revenue gone down a little bit, and then the next month after that, you deposited 5 times, which is better, but you still have that 1 month deposit, low deposits in this month, so that would disqualify you for funding. You meet the qualifications if you're doing $15,000 a month or $5,000 or $3,000 a month, however you look at it, for each service, but your deposits are infrequent. We can't base it off of one deposit per month. What if you don't deposit? And it's a huge amount, which is even worse. If you're depositing a little by little per week, the more the better. More than three or more, usually 5 to 7 plus. And have it be frequent. Yeah, you're doing $80,000 a month, but you're only depositing 2 or 40,000, and then you deposited $80,000 1 month, and then you only did the minimum of 3 the following month, or however form that was. And so that's going to be hurting you. Let me move this so I can read the comments. Hi, Carlos. How are you doing? I am doing great. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I can definitely help. I think we've spoken. Have you filled out the questionnaire on my site? So if you go up one comment, I think you'll see the business loan questionnaire form. You can click that link. Have you filled that out yet? I think you have. So that's a good question. Nice. When people ask me what's the best way to contact me, questionnaire form. Why? Because I don't have to be on a call every single second. I can't answer every call every single second, especially if it's out of the blue. And so please, everybody, ignore the latest comment. We have spammers. And I want to say this at any point, if you're watching this later on, don't be careful about who you see in the comment section. There's all these like Telegram, Instagram. Just know it's not coming from me. It's coming from a spammer. So be careful about who you contact. Don't listen to them. Keep focused on me. Don't focus on any other comments. Yes, you have. Okay, yeah. I thought I filled it out and I sent it back to you. I could be wrong, but I'm going to double check it, Carlos. Let me look through it after this video is done. Wrote you down right here, so you're a top priority. But this would be the best way, again, for everybody to get a hold of me, is so I can get an understanding of what qualifications you are bringing to the table, logically speaking, and then we can go from there. This also saves me a lot of time and energy. But now let me transition to the next part, and then I will go from there. So you already know the two. How do you fix it? Well, let's say you got disapproved. You applied in March. Like I have an individual right now who I actually have to speak to. I want to get to in about 10 minutes. He got declined in January, applied in March. January, February, March. We had to look at statements actually in December through that time, not March. That's when he applied. And so he got denied before that January month having low revenue, but now coming back to it being this month and this time has elapsed, he can come back if he has the right depositing into the account and get approved for it. And we can reevaluate him now with that new bank statement. So how do you fix it? You start depositing more frequently. You start collecting payments much more sooner. Those invoices, however you're collecting payments, and you start depositing it into your account right away, putting it in that business checking account, primary one, and so forth. And you want to be consistent at this. And I won't get into how to fix it as in like build a value ladder for your business, charge more for this, take on more clientele, find higher paying clients. I won't talk about all that in this video. Sure, I can get into all that. But that's what you want to do at a lower level there. So what extra documentation we will need for low doc business funding programs and why it takes you a little longer to get funding. Let's transition into that. So extra documentation, there's low doc, high doc, no doc. No doc, that would be a form of a hybrid credit card stacking program or a hybrid line of credit. And this is where you can get 0% interest for 6 to 18 months if you have at least a 680 FICO credit score, but then there are a lot of credit things, so it's based more off of your credit. And it can be more scrutinizing than it is going through an actual business line of credit online. So it's a bit different there when you're stacking up credit cards, business credit cards in particular. So I'll try to leave more information on that down below in the description. So low documentation funding. Now we're going away from no doc into low doc. Low doc. So a lot of people who go through the process will be asked to submit with these cash advances, business term loans, and so forth. They'll be asked to submit their 3 months of bank statements, if not 4 to 6 months, if not 6 months, if not 12 months, depending on the client's industry and lenders and types of service in that case as well. But what happens is you'll need that, a voided check, and a copy of your driver's license. But like I've spoken to many people in the process, is if you have multiple bank accounts and you're depositing it into one, we also want to see the other business bank accounts. So we may be asking for your other months of bank statements. So you may have 1 month of bank statements with Chase, and then you may have another one here with an online banking institution, and you have 2 of them. You actually have 2 of them with that one. So we're going to want to combine both, but we also want to see the last 3 months or so for all those banking accounts that you have. So we'll be asking for that in a bank letter as well would be asked, and or, I shouldn't say and, it could be or. So for your 3 banks, those statements, as well as or the bank letters. So we can, yeah, that's what we need. The voided checks is another thing too. If it's not the bank statements, it's the voided checks, just the 3 voided checks from those separate bank accounts. So it just varies on each person and what you have. So now let me move over here. And that's why it takes a little bit longer to get funding. I have people right now in the queue in the process of just they've already accepted and they have their offer, but we just need to collect a little bit more information. So why you should act fast on your offer as opposed to waiting, as I spoke about earlier, when the market's about to change, how lenders are being more reluctant to keeping offers on the table, to giving you the most that they can give you at once, inflation, everything happening. So what I recommend is you don't wait too long for when there's an offer on the table and that you take full advantage of it. We're right at the end of the month. So what I recommend, if you have not already gotten your application in, is to do it as soon as possible, because you still have time to submit the bank statements from last month in the 2 or so months prior. But once we get into the next month, you're going to need to supply this month's of bank statements, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're the person who's already in the queue, maybe you have an offer on the table, maybe you don't, get everything you need together and put it through so that we can get you funding faster, as opposed to, hey, we got to start over again, or we have to at least collect the most recent bank statements, and then we need a little bit more information on top of that. I won't get into all the specifics, but it can be a little bit. So I already spoke about how my vacation went, and so we're basically at the end of this. So I'm going to open this up for any questions, comments, or concerns. So I just wanted to give it a little bit of time. I'm not ignoring you guys. I was thinking in my head, but I didn't say it about a minute. Hasn't been that. So again, yeah, the vacation, fun. Like, there's more I wanted to do, but when you're with family and you only have a vehicle, you don't have your own because you rented one. Had my little brother driving around, and it wasn't as sunny as I thought it was going to be. Regardless, we didn't have a lot of traffic. Surprisingly, we're probably stuck in traffic throughout the trip for about no longer than 10 minutes, and that's not a lot. And we were going up and down the 405, changing different freeways, and we were going here and there. We were trying to do as much as we could in a day. We went to Laguna Beach on a forecasted day, hung around there for about 30 or so minutes, just walked up and down. Didn't go down towards the beach. We just hung up at the top where the rails are, and then walked across, turned around, came back into the car, and then we took down the scenic route. The next thing I want to do, and I've done this before in the past, is take Pacific Coast Highway. What I want to do is, when I'm going back to California, I may just drive there myself with a few people, friends, cousins, maybe not friends, family. More so is what I do these days. But take Pacific Coast Highway and just go around the whole thing. And that would be fun to do because it's a nice scenic route. So we did that. Did not go to Disneyland. Wanted to go to Knott's Berry Farm and Six Flags. I ended up having a funnel cake. I haven't had one of those in years. We're talking about like 7+ years. And I had one at Long Beach. So our last night, which was Monday night, we had reservations with my family, our immediate family, as well as cousins and others. We went to Long Beach. I forgot the name of this location, but we were down there. It was like a little boardwalk you can walk to, and they had funnel cakes. They had good restaurants, had fish and chips. They had the boats, good music. I'm like, man, they're actually playing some rock music here. But that was fun. Just a lot of things happening. So I'm going to give it about another minute, and I will conclude. But everything you guys need will be down for you down below in the description to get started, like the questionnaire form. You have other video content. You can even get started with your application like that. For any questions, please feel free to leave them for me down below in the comments. The best way to get a hold of me, the questionnaire, if you haven't filled that out yet. You have my email if you want to do that. EIDL processes still being considered for those of you who are in the queue, and just everything else happening with different types of funding. I'll try to leave grant programs down below if it's not there already, and so forth. So I'll give it about 20 or so seconds. I know it's been past 20 seconds, so I'll give you guys probably another 30 seconds. I want to finish this and then say something. Okay, so that'll conclude everything from myself. I appreciate all of your guys' time and energy. I know it's not easy to be showing up here, especially for the time. And if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to voice them to me. And I wish each and every one of you the best in your own personal lives as well as in your business, like always. And do not fear moving forward. Always put one challenge in front of the next. Take that risk. Be the person who's on the jump board, jumping into the dark pool where it's a little bit deeper than the other side. And there will be, like they say, with higher risks come higher rewards. So understand all that and you'll be in better position. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.